As we always say, stats tell the truth, except when they're lying. On today's show, we're going to dig into some advanced analytics and tell you what those numbers do and don't mean ahead of tonight's game against the Vegas Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy game day, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to kick off this Tuesday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in each and every weekday to get through this Nashville Predators season together. We appreciate your support. We love talking hockey with you all. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio. And my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Emma, we talked on yesterday's show about how the Predators' struggles this season in these close games are more like zebras than horses. On today's show, we are going to dig into a couple of advanced statistics to see what those numbers reveal about what may be going on with the Nashville Predators. We also have to preview tonight's home game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Jonathan Marchessault is going to be facing his former teammates. Before we dive into all of that, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Emma, look, I'm not a mather. If you've been around a long time on the podcast, you know that the math, it's just not for me. I was an English and history person in high school. You were English history too, weren't you? Were you a math and sciencey person?
Oh, heavens no. No, okay. I'm a Spanish and politics major, so clearly using those degrees really
Christian
well right
education and theater. Emma and I have landed exactly where we were destined to be.
Just like we drew it up, yes. But no,
exactly.
Not much, to my father's chagrin. He was a math and science person, and he really tried to push it. Like, he tried to foster it at a young age, like bought me all these books about the solar system and stuff like that. And despite his best efforts, it was never going to be it for me.
Didn't take.
No, I do words, not numbers.
Yeah. My junior year of high school, I am the daughter of public school teachers. Let me preface the story with that little important tidbit. My junior year of high school, I got my first and only F, and that was in pre-calculus. That was awkward when I got home with that report card. I went on my senior year to go back and take Algebra 2, and I set the curve with a bunch of freshmen, and they hated me.
See, that's like and I probably shouldn't be proud of this, but of all my academic achievements, I think the one that I'm most proud of is I went through, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, grad school. I never took calculus. I never made it to calculus. My highest level, my senior year of high school, I took pre-cal. And then I went to a liberal arts school for college. So they just make you take one math class to fill your requirement. So what did I take? I took statistics, which is like not even math. It's just like odds.
The thing I remember about statistics in college is, number one, I was the same situation, liberal arts college. I put it off till second semester senior year.
Nice.
And number two, my professor wore cowboy boots every day. I kept track of it. That's what I remember from statistics. Now, we are going to dive into some statistics today. And before you even start typing in the comments, let me just tell you that Emma and I have done our work. When it comes to hockey statistics, rest assured, we will not lead you totally into the jingweeds here. We're going to look at just a couple of them and tell you what these numbers maybe do and don't mean when it comes to this Nashville Predators team that is just sort of next level mystifying is the best word I think I can use for it. And Emma, there's a number of places we can start, but let's start with goal scoring, because I think we can all agree that goal scoring has been an issue for the Nashville Predators. And the first statistic that I want to talk about is something called expected goals for. And we talk about this sometimes after games. And what that means is it's a metric that estimates the number of goals a team is expected to score, and it's based on the shots the team took, and it's calculated. It uses a statistical model, and it factors in things like shot location, the type of shot, that kind of thing. So expected goals for is not a number they come up with before the game, just guessing. It's a number they come up with based on what actually happens in a game. And I think that's important to know when we talk about expected goals for. It's not like somebody looked in their crystal ball and was like, I think Nashville will score 1.7 goals. It's based on what happens on the ice.
Yeah, and it's a moving target too within the game when it like if you keep an eye on expected goals during the game, it's constantly changing based on what's happening in the game. And essentially what expected goals does is it's not perfect, right? There's no perfect way to do this, but the idea of it is because people will always say like, well, who cares about expected versus reality? It's not the same. The idea is to try and separate the controllables from the uncontrollables when it comes to shooting and scoring. So things that the players can't control, who the goaltender is, whether, the lucky bounces, whether the defenseman misses an assignment, like all of those things that are out of the shooter's control. That's kind of what expected goals does. It tries to separate those things from the things the player can control.
Yes. When you look at Nashville's expected goals for based on the games that they have played already, and remember, again, it's based on what has happened. Nashville actually ranks 16th in the league. They are middle of the pack in the league for the number of goals they are expected to have scored based on their performances. Now we get to what actually happened. But let me say this. They calculate the actual number, a specific number of expected goals for. And with Nashville, that number currently at time of recording is 83.01 goals. That's how many, based on what has happened, Nashville is expected to have scored. Here's what Nashville has scored, y'all. 55. 55 goals. And in case you're wondering, where does that rank in the league, baby? That's dead last. Nashville has scored 55 goals, Emma. Woof.
Yeah.
It's not great, y'all.
This is where I talked about it on yesterday's show when we were talking about how mystifying that loss was to Washington. I said, this is what we were saying about this Predators team last year with Andrew Brunette's first season, where it was like they were out shooting all of their opponents. Now, this year hasn't been the same. Early in the year was not the case. They were getting outplayed a lot. Now they're not getting outplayed, but they're getting out resulted. And that's what makes it more frustrating, especially to see this happening a second year in a row.
Yeah, this was painful the first time around. It's even more painful the second time around with the additions. Another number I want to throw out there real quick, and again, we're not gonna get into the tall weeds with these numbers, but talking about goal differential, and goal differential is basically you look at the difference between the number of goals your team has scored versus the number of goals that have been scored on your team. So it's just this is simple math that Emma and I were like, oh yeah, we can calculate goal differential. Now, they also have what's called expected goal differential. And that's the difference between expected goals for, expected goals against. The expected goal differential for Nashville based on expected goals for, expected goals against, minus 0.6. So just a titch over half a goal that they should have been outshot by. 15th in the league. The actual real number of the goal differential for the Nashville Predators, and this is the number of goals for minus the number of goals against. Buckle up, Buttercup. Minus 29. Based on how they have shot and how the other teams they have played have shot, it should just be a half a goal difference. It's 29 goals in the minus. Friends, that's bad. If you were an English and history person, just let us tell you that that's not great. 31st in the league, only behind the Chicago Blackhawks. God bless the Blackhawks for hanging in there. Look, Nashville is getting chances, but they're not finishing them. Coming up, Emma, you and I are going to wrestle with the existential question of what is going to make that better. We're also going to take a look at some defensive metrics and see what those tell us about this Predators team. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are just better with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, we're going to try to solve the unsolvable, which is, it's going to be a challenge. Let's just be honest. We're talking about things like goal differential. We're talking about how Nashville just is not scoring the number of goals they should be scoring. Now we have to wrestle with the existential question, the question that Andrew Brunette stays up at night thinking about. What do you do to fix this?
I stay up at night thinking about that.
I swear to you.
We're losing sleep over this. I am here drinking my caffeine because I am up all night thinking about this.
Yeah.
It's hard because this is what we're talking about and we talked about this on yesterday's show about how hoofbeats, you're hearing hoofbeats and this is zebras because everything, this is why it's not simple. This is why all the people who are like, guys, come on, it's so obvious what the problem is. It's like, clearly it's not, because the numbers are saying everything else. The numbers, the advanced stats are saying that this team should be, like, based on how the first half, not even coming into the season, but based on how the first half has transpired, this team should be right in the middle.
Of the pack.
Right in the middle of the pack, still sniffing a playoff spot, like could go either way kind of thing, which is basically where they were last year. And I think that now you're seeing that that's very much not the case, but it's frustrating. And I wish that people would give Andrew Brunette just a little bit more grace, because this is what happened last year and he showed the ability to drag them out of it. And again, I think that alone earned him at least another full season here. I don't think firing him now is going to fix anything. I just think that he's done it before. I think he's earned the opportunity to try to do it again. And if he can't do it again, then we have a different conversation. But I think that's like, it took a lot last year. It took a lot of belief and a lot of digging in and a lot of just gutsy efforts and a lot of pain and heartache along the way too for this team, because how many blown leads did they have last year? How long did it take to get to that point? And it is a little bit of a concerning pattern that it's taking them this long to figure it out each season. But eventually you start to think, and even Andrew Brunette said after the game against Washington, he was like, I'm even starting to question my own belief a little bit, because it's like, I've always thought it's, if you do the right things and you create the chances, then the goals will come. If you build it, they will come. That's like kind of what he's always thought. And he's like, yeah, this season is challenging that belief because it's taken so long and there isn't a clear answer.
I want to just piggyback on what you're saying about people who are starting to rumble again about you need to fire Andrew Brunette. And here is another point I want to make about that, because I agree with you. And I know some people don't agree with us on this, but hear us out. I think he has, with you, I think he's earned the right to try to get this team through it. Second of all, who do you replace him with? I don't think that Barry Trotz has as long-standing a relationship with the assistant coaches and has the confidence to say, you know what, they're the next man up. For me personally, you know who I would want to see, and I think I would speak for you, Emma. Carl Taylor is who I think is sort of the next man up. And he was interviewed by Barry Trotz at the same time that Andrew Brunette was interviewed. But here's the deal with that. And I love Carl Taylor. Look, president of the Carl Taylor fan club. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think Nashville owes a lot of their success to Carl Taylor and his staff in Milwaukee. But you signed Steven Stamkos and you signed Jonathan Marchessault under the assumption that this is a team that is going to chase a cup. And when you then turn around and you hire a first-time NHL head coach, that's a different scenario than what you signed these two players, and Brady Skjei too. That's a different scenario. And I think that's a conversation that goes beyond this is just what Barry Trotz would want to do. I think there's a bigger conversation that would have to happen in that scenario. So I think the fire Brunette thing, A, I think it's not the right time to fire Andrew Brunette. B, the flip side of that is you don't have the person to replace him right now. And I think that's something to remember.
Yeah, I think with the Carl Taylor thing, I love him too. I just think that I think that he will be an NHL head coach one day, and I think he should be.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not the time for him in Nashville, at least, because like you said, it sends a completely different message that this team is going in a completely different direction.
Correct.
If you want, if the goal is to win now, you don't go with a first-year head coach. You got to go with someone, right or wrong, good or bad. We can have that debate, but that's just kind of the fact of it in the NHL, is that you're going to have to go get like a Gerard Gallant or someone who has like a proven track record of success, which again, some could argue that that's the problem in this league, is that, it's kind of a revolving door of the same people.
I do hate that.
That's a different conversation for another time. I think the point here is that Carl Taylor, like one of his greatest strengths is in developing young players. And honestly, like that's not where Nashville is right now. Like Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, not saying that they're, they can't learn or improve anything, but like they're fully cooked. They're developed.
Mm-hmm.
With Carl Taylor, I don't think that if you're looking for who can get the most out of those guys, I don't think it's Carl Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if they had gone committed to the rebuild, called up Askarov, traded Saros, gone the, in the choose your own adventure, and they chose the other way, then Carl Taylor might make a little bit more sense for this team. But I think that right now, again, I am not saying, for all the people who are going to come at me for this, I'm not saying that Andrew Brunette is the best coach who has ever lived and he can do no wrong and he should be the coach of the Nashville Predators until the end of time. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you don't have a better option right now. And the people who are whining about, oh, he should have been gone in October. Well, he wasn't. He's not.
You also didn't have a better option in October. There were 5 days, y'all, between the guy that got fired and you wanted him hired. He had 5 days. He didn't even sit in his recliner until he was rehired somewhere. And I agree with you. The Carl Taylor thing, it is not about talent as a coach. I think it's about timing of an organization. I think that's key. I do want to pivot back to a couple numbers, and this has to do with defense. And I thought that this was just something to chew on because we have talked about defense has been a little bit at times a struggle for the Predators. Of course, they do have some injuries on defense right now as well. But the defensive zone, I saw this stat and I thought this was interesting. Nashville is second in the league in defensive zone giveaways to opponents. Maybe we don't do that anymore. 51.19% of the giveaways that Nashville has happen in the defensive zone. That's not great.
See, I didn't actually know the specific number before we recorded this, but sadly, that is not a shocking number.
It's an eye test number. It confirms an eye test.
Yeah. Yeah, this team really took a step back defensively, more, I think, than anyone was expecting. I went into the season thinking, and I don't think I was completely off base for thinking this, but that Brady Skjei was going to be comparable, if not an upgrade, over Ryan McDonagh. He's like Ryan McDonagh with more offensive upside. And now it's like, yes, we're giving him time, we're giving him grace because he's coming from a completely different kind of system in Carolina where he played man-to-man defense, which is pretty self-explanatory. You have your guy and you stick with your guy. That's not how Nashville plays. It's a little bit more zone. I feel like I'm talking about basketball, but it's like a little bit more zone
or
than
parenting.
man-to-man.
Yeah. It's like I describe parenting as that as well.
Yeah. So I just think that he's clearly like had the growing pains. He still hasn't quite figured it out, but I still am not on the Brady Skjei's a bust train yet because I look at last year. Again, last year it took the whole team more than half a season to figure it out. So if we gave them that grace, then I'm giving Brady Skjei that grace that if by like end of February he still looks rough, then I might have a little bit different of an opinion. But I think, there's the Brady Skjei thing, there's trading Alex Carrier, there's Roman Josi getting injured, there's Spencer Stastny not coming until December or January rather, and then adding Justin Barron in, then you have, Nick Blankenberg coming in, and it's just the only constants really have been Skjei and Luke Schenn. They're like the only guys who haven't gotten hurt and who haven't, obviously been traded or anything like that. And that's sad because those are not, well, especially Schenn is not like, Schenn does a lot of things very well, but he is not, he is very much a bottom pairing defenseman. So I just, there have been a lot of moving parts and I want to give them some grace for that. But it's been very evident that this team is definitely taken a big step back defensively.
Yeah. And they've got to find a way to figure that out because you're wasting some really great performances by your goaltenders when defensively you're not able to close out games. There are two other numbers I want to mention really quick, Emma, that just sort of sum up what all of these advanced analytics are telling us. And those numbers are this. The Nashville Predators, as of the time of this recording, have a 2.6% chance of making the playoffs. They have a 5.5% chance of getting the first pick in the draft. Y'all, this has been a rough year. It's been a rough year. Coming up, we're going to talk about, what Nashville has to do, setting aside these numbers and looking at what happens on the ice. They're going to take the ice tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights, Jonathan Marchessault's old team. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. If saving money and getting your finances in order is one of your New Year's resolutions, I want to encourage you to check out Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. One of the best features is the subscription tracker. We have all signed up for subscriptions and then forgotten about them, but Rocket Money tracks those down so you can see exactly where your money may be going. Plus, with their goals feature, you're able to automatically set aside money for the future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. Emma, since we've just been hitting the numbers hard today, let me just whip these numbers out. 28, 11, and 3. That is not the record of the Nashville Predators. That's the record of the Vegas Golden Knights, y'all. And Nashville is taking this team on tonight. This is Jonathan Marchessault's first time playing against his former teammate. He played 514 games with the Vegas Golden Knights, averaged 27 goals a season with them. Also, might want to throw this out there, won a Stanley Cup, doesn't wear his ring. And also was the first undrafted player since Wayne Gretzky to win the Conn Smythe when Vegas won the Stanley Cup. Are we going to see a little extra something from the Fonz, Jonathan Marchessault, you think, tonight?
I think so. I mean, you saw this man plays with some fire on a normal day. I think you're really going to see it against the team that he felt had kind of, disrespected him with their offer to try to get him to stay. And I mean, he was angry. We saw during the summer, his press conference, we saw that he was none too pleased with how that all went down. So I think we're definitely going to see a little bit of extra spice from him. And this is a guy who does not like to lose. I mean, none of them do, but I mean,
Yes.
again, that's just on a normal day. Imagine like going up against like your ex basically and wanting to be like, I won the relationship, because right now it's going to be hard because Vegas is the team to beat in the West right now. Nashville is not. So I think, he's definitely going to have some extra fire under him.
Jonathan Marchessault is such a competitor. I think he is a lovely person, but I bet you anything he never lets his kids win in Candyland. Like, that's who I think he is as a person. And so I think Vegas needs to be ready for a little extra fire from Jonathan Marchessault as well. Looking at Vegas, of course, they've got pretty good goaltending. Aiden Hill, Ilya Samsonov as well. They have the 7th best power play. They're 23rd on the penalty kill. So maybe there's an opportunity there. When you look at this game tonight, Emma, what do you want to see from Nashville?
Well, to stay on theme, I would like to see more discipline in the defensive zone. And offensively, I would like them to just be a little bit more aggressive with their chances. And we're seeing back to kind of seeing a little bit more perimeter play and not getting to the net. Again, the decision making with the puck in the offensive zone is very it seems very rushed and hurried and just just dump it in and go. It's not, I can't quite put a finger on it, but I would like to see better decisions with the puck, really in both zones. So I think that's kind of where I'm at, is I want this team to look more disciplined.
Yeah, I agree with that. Talking about scoring, something we've been talking about through this whole episode. Philip Forsberg, make it 3 in a row, buddy. Let's go. I would love to see Philip Forsberg score again. And this is one of those games where sometimes Nashville plays to the level of their opponent. And especially with the Jonathan Marchessault factor, I think Nashville's going to want to stick it to Vegas. And Philip Forsberg is one of those guys where when he is on, he is on. So I'll be very curious to see what he can do. The other thing I will say, and I mentioned this with our insiders, Emma and I kind of always share what we're watching for in a game with our insiders pregame. And I mentioned this in the last one, and I stand by this tonight. Obviously, Luke Evangelista is out. So you're looking at a line of Novak, Svechkov, and LaRue. I would love to see that line score. They're generating some chances. Svechkov had a little bit of a tough game the last game, but I just think that there is something there, and I would really love to see some depth scoring, especially from that line. They've generated some chances, each of them individually, on some different combinations, on some different lines, and I would love to see them kind of put some of that together tonight. I think that would be huge for Nashville to get some depth scoring as well.
I don't want to go to another sad locker room. Come on.
Yes.
Little joy.
A little joy.
Nice.
It would be great. And look, we want to see a great performance. We want to see results. And that's what this all boils down to. We want to see results tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. Good performance that ends in 2 points. Puck drop scheduled for 7 p.m. Again, it's a home game at Bridgestone Arena. Emma and I are going to be there. We'll be in the locker room. We'll hear from Andrew Brunette post-game as well. And of course, on tomorrow's show, we're going to recap this Vegas Golden Knights game and let you know what we hear from the players and from Andrew Brunette as well. Before we sign off here today, Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with what we hope is a joy-filled game recap. We'll see you then.